Shane Van Gisbergen finished 30th at Iowa on Sunday, 3 laps down, after spinning his car around all by himself on lap 91. And I already know exactly what the reaction is going to be because we've heard it all season. The road course guy can't do ovals. Same old story, except that is not what happened at Iowa, and the proof is sitting right there in the results sheet, because his 2 Trackhouse Racing teammates, in cars built in the same shop, finished 7th and 11th on the very same afternoon. Ross Chastain came home 7th. Connor Zilisch tied his career-best oval finish in 11th, and Van Gisbergen was 3 laps down in 30th. So what actually went wrong? The answer is in his radio traffic, and in a couple of failures during Stage 1 that almost nobody has reported. So today, let's break down what genuinely happened to the number 97 at Iowa, why this was not the story everyone's about to tell, and what it means for a chase spot that is now hanging by a thread. Stay with me. Welcome back to Freedom Line News, the channel where we don't just chase the drama, we break down what really happened. If you're new, hit subscribe. This community is growing every week. Let's get into it. Let's start with the part of this story that got almost no coverage at all because it happened early and quietly, long before the spin that everyone saw. During Stage 1, Van Gisbergen reported that his cool suit had failed. For anyone unfamiliar, the cool suit is the system that circulates chilled fluid through a driver's undergarments to stop them from overheating inside a car where cockpit temperatures can climb well past anything comfortable. It is not a luxury item. It is core safety and performance equipment. And his stopped working. And then, shortly after that, his helmet fan stopped working too. That's the second layer of the cooling system, the fan that pulls fresh air into the helmet itself. So within the opening stage of a 350-lap race, in the middle of an American summer, Shane Van Gisbergen lost essentially all of his cooling. And on top of that, the car was simply not right. He ended Stage 1 on lap 70, running 23rd, reporting a loose-handling Camaro. He described significant tire chatter, and critically, chatter at both the front and the rear of the car, not just one end. That combination tells you this wasn't a small setup miss you could dial out with an air pressure adjustment. Something about that car was fundamentally unhappy from the very beginning. Which brings us to lap 91. Van Gisbergen spun his Chevrolet through turns 3 and 4, entirely on his own, with little to no contact. No other driver involved, no crash, just a car that let go. And what he said on the radio immediately afterward is the single most revealing line of his whole afternoon. He said he didn't know what happened, that it just felt like the car had flats the whole time. Think about what that means coming from a 3-time Supercars champion. He's describing a car that felt, for the entire race, like it was running on deflated tires. That's not a driver being caught out by an oval. That's a driver telling you the machine underneath him was behaving in a way he couldn't read or trust. He never recovered from it. In a race where track position was already difficult to regain, losing that much ground on lap 91 of 350 was effectively terminal. He went 3 laps down and stayed there. And his summary at the end of the race was about as blunt as this driver ever gets. He said he didn't know what they brought there, but don't bring it again. That's not a driver blaming himself. That's a driver pointing directly at the car. And here's why that assessment holds up, and why this genuinely matters. Because Trackhouse Racing didn't have a bad day at Iowa. Only one Trackhouse car did. Ross Chastain, in the number 1, finished 7th. And he did it the hard way, recovering through the field while banking 13 stage points, for a 43-point afternoon that keeps his own chase hopes technically breathing. Connor Zilisch, the rookie in the number 88, qualified 8th, ran inside the top 15 most of the day, and finished 11th, tying the best oval result of his young Cup career. So the organization brought speed. The organization brought cars capable of running top 10 at Iowa. And the number 97 crew watched their 2 sister cars do exactly that, while their driver fought a machine that felt like it had 4 flat tires. Speed Cafe described it, quite accurately, as a bitter pill for that crew. Because when your teammates run 7th and 11th, the "we just weren't fast enough as a team" explanation disappears completely. Now, let's be genuinely fair here, because I don't want to hand Van Gisbergen a free pass he hasn't earned. He did spin the car himself. Nobody hit him, and a more experienced oval driver might have felt that snap coming and caught it, or might have managed a badly handling car around the problem rather than losing the back end entirely. Those are legitimate points, and his oval craft is still developing. That's simply true. But look at what he did 2 weeks before this. At North Wilkesboro, a proper, unforgiving short track, Shane Van Gisbergen finished 5th. He led laps, and he scored stage points in every single stage. NASCAR's own coverage described his short track ability as having taken an obvious step forward. That is not the performance of a driver who is helpless on anything without right-hand turns. That's a driver whose oval game has genuinely, measurably improved over the course of this season. So the honest reading of Iowa is this. It was not evidence that the oval progress was fake. It was a bad car, made significantly worse by losing both layers of his cooling system inside the first stage, compounded by one mistake that a driver with more oval mileage might have saved. 3 separate things, only one of which was actually about his driving. And that distinction matters enormously, because the lazy version of this story, road course guy fails on oval again, is going to be everywhere this week, and it simply doesn't survive contact with the results sheet. So where does this leave him? Genuinely precarious, but not desperate. Van Gisbergen remains 15th in the standings, holding a 47-point cushion over the chase cut line, with 3 regular season races remaining. And NASCAR's own analysis puts him as the strongest of the group scrapping for the final spots. But only 68 points separate 6 drivers fighting over the last 2 positions. That is nothing. One more 30th place finish and that cushion is gone. But there are 2 genuinely encouraging things ahead, and the second one is a detail I haven't seen anybody connect to him at all. First, the history. He finished 14th at Richmond last summer, and he was running inside the top 10 for much of last year's New Hampshire race before he got turned around midway through. So these aren't tracks where he's been hopeless. He's had real pace at both. And second, NASCAR is scrapping its split practice groups starting at New Hampshire, which effectively doubles the on-track time available in a session. Now think about who that helps most. Not the veterans with 20 years of laps at every track on the calendar. It helps the driver who is still building his oval library from scratch, who needs every single lap he can get to learn how these cars behave on a flat, worn surface. That rule change is close to tailor-made for Shane Van Gisbergen's exact situation, at exactly the moment he needs it most. And nobody's talking about it. So now I want to hear from you. When his teammates finish 7th and 11th, and he's 3 laps down in 30th, do you buy that Iowa was mostly a car problem? Or do you think an experienced oval driver saves that spin and salvages a top 20 regardless? And does he hold on and make the chase with 3 races to go, or does that 47-point cushion disappear? Drop it in the comments, hit like, and subscribe to Freedom Line News, where we cover every NASCAR story with the detail it actually deserves. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.